Here we go on a Sunday night. Is that coffee in the coffee mug? Guest of honor, MIB. All right. So
Yes, sir.
here we go. How did we get here? We're here to recognize and celebrate Big Chuck of Big Chuck and Little John, Big Chuck of Houlihan and Big Chuck. So let me check the text line for how did we get here. It was back Monday, and I'm talking to my friend who grew up in the great state of Ohio. And so the news came to me as I'm scrolling just to get the accurate commentary. Says here, as of Monday, 11:51 a.m., R.I.P. to Chuck Shadowski. Am I saying it right? Shadowski.
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 Yes,
Okay.
Shadowski.
Chuck Shadowski of Big Chuck and Little passed away on Monday at 90 years old. The 90s a great many years to be on this earth. But let me also just go one more text from our texter of many monikers, and then we'll get into MIB's origins and pre-origins with Big Chuck and Little John. So as here I'm saying, how should I call you on the show? I'm saying, and they said, well, we could say Cleveland Eddie, we could say Westlake Eddie, or even in reference to St. Ignatius High School in the greater Cleveland area, we could say Eddie from Iggy. We could also not his top moniker at this time, but Browns fan Eddie. So he says he declined to come on camera. He doesn't remember a lot of Godzilla movies coming across the way, but he did want to include this very specific recollection. Says here, okay, you can mention that Eddie from Iggy, Westlake Eddie, used to see Little John walking down East 9th after work with his briefcase.
Yeah.
And he said he was probably headed to, at the time, a Tribe game.
Yeah.
So did you, let's open with that atypical or that very nuanced question. Did you, in your comings and goings, cross paths with Little John in the vicinity of East 9th?
Oh, yes. You know, years ago when I was a kid, teenager, I had a job down at downtown Cleveland, a place called Vincenzo's Pizza and Pasta. And I was a delivery boy. I had to deliver the pizzas. So I used to see Little John all the time. He had a jewelry store called Rinaldi's, I believe. Rinaldi's Jewelry or something like that. But I would cross paths with Little John all the time, and see him all the time downtown Cleveland. Yeah, so good memories. Nice guy.
So again, how we say on our channel here, the Mandarin, we may be passing by the Mandarin and not know it because the Mandarin is a man of mystery. So similarly, you could have in your comings and goings passed by Cleveland Eddie, Westlake Eddie, Eddie from Iggy, and just not having known each other. And that's a beautiful thing in a small world.
Absolutely. You know, it is truly a small world, especially if he's from Cleveland. You know, I've worked in Cleveland, moved to Cleveland in 1974. So, yeah, it's been around.
All right.
Long time.
Let me bring up the share screen and let me navigate. Okay, I wanted to just try to see if I can get the other.
Nice. Look at that.
I want to get this. No, we don't want to block the whole. Oh, now I've taken us out of the. Here we go. Now we're down in the corner out of the way.
Look at all those legends right there.
All those legends. So there you see in that corner. So right above our heads in the corner, the 2012 inductees. Let me say, anytime you're in the same class as an Elvira, as a Joe Bob Briggs, you are literally in a good class. So here we have, and maybe I need to do more work. Is Houlihan himself also in the Horror Host Hall of Fame? I'll have to look around better, but
he should be. That's a good point. If he's not, he should be. You know, I need to petition if he's not, but because I mean he did it as long, if not longer, than Big Chuck. Now, was he as universally recognized as Big Chuck and Little John? Because like I said before, Big Chuck and Little John, they took it to a whole new level after Houlihan retired and moved to Florida. or moved to Florida to do other things.
And that was a good conversation we had some weeks ago right over here.
Yeah.
But now for a full-on tribute in recognition of Big Chuck. So we'll come to shortly that your specific origin or your first encounter. But now, so before your time, before my time, there's Goulardi, and let me see if I can navigate the share screen again to come around. Extra camera. Okay, first I got to go to stop, then I can restart. All right, here we go. Share. Let me get Goulardi right up in here. Okay, bring share and Goulardi. Okay, so it's well known around Chicago that our OG, one of our OG, our first wave of horror hosts, the original Sven Gulli, played by Jerry G. Bishop, had come from Cleveland area, had been around the influences of and the interaction. So Goulardi had his reign as a top horror host of Cleveland area, and then if I understand correctly, other affiliates, maybe Detroit, maybe other sections would pull in Goulardi. So you're getting a multi-region, multiple cities in your viewership. Goulardi's time came and went, and Tim Conway, well known for his Carol Burnett years, well known for his Disney comedies, partnering with Don Knotts. Tim Conway was also involved in this atmosphere.
Yes.
But now, so let's bring it up. So Houlihan was an assistant, maybe on camera, maybe off camera to the Goulardi. So Goulardi decides to leave, and who comes to fill the role? Comes Houlihan and Big Chuck. So MIB, pick us up from there, if you will. What, before you started to watch as a youngster, what backstory did you come into from the ascent of Houlihan and Big Chuck?
Well, that's that. Well, so because Goulardi is a little before. Well, he was definitely before my time.
Oh yes.
Yeah, he was definitely before my time, and I started, like I said, I got here to Cleveland from Detroit, Michigan in 1974. And my first recollection of Big Chuck, Houlihan and Big Chuck, it wasn't Big Chuck and Houlihan, it was Houlihan and Big Chuck, because he was the billed star. So he was the billing on the show, for the show. So Houlihan, I 1977. Yeah, there you go. What date is that? Is that 74?
It says right there 74. I believe it's January 18 to 25 of 74.
Right. So I was just getting to Cleveland. No. I got to Cleveland and September. No, it was September. So it was September of 74. I got here. So it was almost 75. So I was coming in. But I say 77, 76, 77 was when I saw my first Houlihan and Big Chuck show. That's my earliest memories of Houlihan. And then that would run, I want to say that ran until 1979. When I got, at that point though, my brothers and I and my sister, we were so in love with Houlihan and Big Chuck that we were sad when Houlihan announced that, he was leaving the show. And I said, well, who are they going to replace him with? I mean, that's the end of the show, right? This was the best tandem that, and the funniest tandem that I could imagine. And then I would see in some of Houlihan and Big Chuck's skits, I would see this little guy. Didn't know his name. Knew he was funny though. I mean, he played great roles in all these skits, these real funny skits. And I'd say that little guy's funny. And then they announced that it would be Little John would be filling in, would be the new partner to Big Chuck. And I was like, oh my goodness. All right, how's this gonna work? Can this work? Are these guys compatible? So I guess as the old saying goes, the rest is history. The rest is history. One of the most dynamic duels ever. It was comedy gold, as they say. Comedy gold. Beautiful.
Beautiful comedy gold. As I was using the phrase heavy hitters just roughly 24 hours ago, coming around talking on Fanboy Cantina channel, coming around here. Let me take a second to then again pull in the comment section. So a pre-show, Fanboy drops in a let's go. Our new associate Skywalker's Academy. Now, could there be a better name for an on-screen moniker or a YouTube connection? I will say no. Skywalker's Academy. It's there you go. And then do more than, I can't even make it out, but Soul of Fire, whatever the exact wording in there, Skywalker Academy is chosen well. Now we're pulling again some Godfather reference over here. Leave the gun, take the cannoli, so that the well played Skywalker Academy new to our environment.
What he did there.
Yeah, and quite clever. And as we were in our earliest minutes, Fanboy calling Ohio and calling glorious Fanboy. Let me step out of the way for a second. Fanboy, MIB and Fanboy.
Hey,
there you go, fellas.
Fanboy Cantina.
All right, so now let me come to, as I'm trying to have a multimedia here, let me come to the book itself. It's a long title, From Shock Theater to Svengoolie Chicago TV Horror Movies. Ted and Mark co-authored this book.
That's a great book. Hey, get that book.
Well, it is available on Amazon, and it might be in your Barnes and Noble in your area. I don't know.
Check that out. I got a Barnes and Noble. Yeah.
I don't know if it plays to much shelf space outside of the greater Chicago area.
I'll look it up.
So let me hear. So here comes Ted and Mark. So again, Mark, in my emails with him before, who I was fortunate to have a little. Okay, so Ted wrote the most of the book, but so this is probably quoting Ted. Ernie Anderson was entitled to his opinion, but his legion of fans beg to differ. Ghoulardi is revered as one of the greatest horror movie hosts of all time. Oh, and let me just back that Ghoulardi. Ernie Anderson was saying, people come with me years after and talk about Ghoulardi. Like, do they really remember Ghoulardi? And so that's where he's saying okay, but so now Anderson left. Ron Swede worked on Channel 8's Houlihan and Big Chuck show, which starred Bob Houlihan Wells and Chuck. Both had been involved in Shock Theater. So then, I just wanted to include that history.
Yeah.
They're in the Horror Host Hall of Fame. They're literally in the book. It's a big deal. So as you mentioned, it just took it to a whole other level when Little John came in. As we see, so now here's something as a person who didn't grow up in the Cleveland area, and I'm trying to parse this together, puzzle this together, piece this together. If somebody looks through YouTube now, many a YouTube channel has recorded their bits from their historic eras. Okay. There is so much comedy, so much. I would say that they had Ray Harryhausen acknowledge their stop motion work. And it's a bit where Little John is just got a steering wheel with him, but he's sitting in the road. And then image scooch up.
Driving on the ground. Right.
Driving on the ground. Sitting like production wise. and then
ahead of their time.
And then Big Chuck comes in with the police hat on. So they went to so much effort to get such a great yield out of the laughter, out of the comedy. How did they squeeze in the horror movies? Where did they get time to play the horror movie? Was it a 2-hour show? What was there?
I want to say it was a little over an hour show. If memory serves, because this is how good the show was. We never really watched the movie that they were they were showing. They did Godzilla shows and movies and all that stuff too, but a lot of it was, Frankenstein meets, versus the Wolfman, and a lot of old campy style type, horror shows, movies. But it was jam packed with so many skits, and with Big Chuck and Little John doing a lot of talking in between, kind of like what Elvira would do, and Goulardi and all those guys would do. And Spin Gooley, a lot of that slapstick in between as well. You didn't really have time to look at they did do the movie, but the movie was so chopped up, we didn't care though. We were there. Okay, understand this. We were there for the skits. Skits that would have us crying, laughing, and just our sides were hurting. I remember they did one with the Good Tarzan skit, and he's singing, and they got the ape back there, and he's dancing and carrying on. My oldest brother just got us in trouble. We were watching TV, and it's late anyway. It's a Friday night. It's late. My parents say, look, if you guys don't hold it down, everybody's going to bed. And God bless my oldest brother. He just couldn't help it. He couldn't contain himself. The laughter was too loud. And, my dad shut everything down. So we had to go to bed. That's how funny these Big Chuck and Little John were. I mean, it was hilarious. And even then, when we were getting sent to bed, we were still in our room laughing. So it was hilarious. I mean, it was something that we will look forward to during the week. We couldn't wait to get to Friday night. I mean, we couldn't. That Big Chuck and Little John shaped the 1970s for me as a kid growing up in the 1970s. They literally did, because it's ingrained in my mind now as a 54-year-old. All of the fun, all of the laughs, all of the skits now, like I said, I think I've shared with you this before, that I have passed on to my kids. I got them watching it, and they have their favorites now from that. So really cool.
See, I can't even, again, as I've said in our previous conversations, let me bring Matt's comment. Matt, first time commenter, glad to have you aboard, Matt. Maybe we had a 2.5 hour format, and Matt had been an Ohioan watching. So again, Matt, welcome around, and feel free, Matt, to drop your specific memories of Houlihan, of Little John, of Chuck, of the movies. Any comment you want to add, Matt? That's here we go, fanboy. The family aspect is everything. So thank you. As I'm in the middle of trying to articulate, I get that verklempt, if you will, overwhelmed, because there's so much goodness going. So right there's your memories. There's bringing in the family element, passing it down the generation. There's looking at the time, right? So this predates and then co-occurs with Saturday Night Live. Yeah. So well noted for being revolutionaries in network TV comedy, and going on to have great success in film, and as your Belushi's, your Chevy Chases, your Dan Aykroyd's, your Gary Morris, your Lorraine Newman, your Gilda Radner. I'm trying not to leave anybody out now. Your Jane Curtin, and then Bill Murray comes in. Okay. It's so funny. And I see them in the bits, and they're holding up they're holding up a Mad magazine. So again, Mad magazine had its rise and its fall, and doesn't fit the current, or it is in reprint format, but is no longer in current new releases of Mad magazine.
Right.
Then other stuff, they're holding up a Godzilla comic book from Marvel Comics. And it's just all the ingredients are in this cauldron. And it's just, they were cooking up.
Right. You had a tie-in with some of the biggest movies during the 70s. They did a Star Wars tie-in. They did a what's that? Encounters the Third Kind. What's that movie? I should slap myself. First, was that Third Encounters? First Encounters?
Yeah. Close Encounters of the
Third Kind. They did one of that. They did one that I cannot find. And if anybody that's listening right now I would greatly appreciate it if anyone can find this particular skit on Big Chuck and Lil Jon of Saturday Night Fever. He did one on Saturday Night Fever, and it was the certain ethnic. He had a certain ethnic series that he would do. The plumber, a certain ethnic banker, you name it. But this was Saturday Night Fever. And Big Chuck, who played the character of Stosh, I believe that was his name, was Stosh. And he had that famous iconic sweater. And he said all Polish people in his area seemed to wear this particular sweater. But anyway, he had the big mustache and the hat, and he couldn't find anybody to dance with. And naturally, you got your great dancers out here on the dance floor. He found a cleaning lady who was about maybe 270 pounds, and they were battling it out with these great dancers and stuff. It was hilarious. I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to contain my laughter now. Because and I can't find it. I cannot find that particular skit, but I love the fact that they tied so much of Americana and pop culture into their skits and their dialogue, everything. It was phenomenal.
I had originally thought, again, and I wasn't there, so my only access to them is through secondary sources and YouTube highlights. So I originally thought they took of a certain ethnicity, in maybe more towards the later 70s or early 80s, as people were starting to be more cautious and more sensitive. And again, let's say Saturday Night Live in that era is pushing the envelope in a serious way.
They pushed it. We can't do any of that now. Not from Saturday Night Live from 75 to 79-ish. There, you couldn't do any of that. Not
True
now.
Enough. True enough. In other formats, you had, ironically, sardonically known as Mr. Warmth, you had Don Rickles, known for, you're going to pay money to go see the Don Rickles on stage. That microphone and that crowd work is coming. And
Don Rickles, hey, listen. Don Rickles will always say it. Look, if you have thin skin, don't come to my show. Please don't come. Don't show up, because he'll pick on you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's famous for all of his Johnny Carson guest appearances and everything. He didn't cut anything. He didn't cut any corners with that. So
with all these contemporaries, so again, the intersection of it all, you got the comedy contemporaries, you got their class of horror hosts who were roughly their same time around them. Again, I don't know of every horror host in every city, but then just even locally, they bring in with the as Eddie from Iggy had noted, the stupid red nose of Superhost. He probably had but then they do the crossover with Superhost.
Classic. And that was for a lot of us, that was the first introduction to Superhost, who would have his show on Saturday afternoons. And I don't think I got into Superhost until maybe late 79, 80, maybe around 81, late 70s, early 80s, 79, 80, 81, somewhere around there. That I became a big fan of Superhost. But yeah, so they did a lot of that, And I had the pleasure of, I never got a chance to meet Superhost. Met Big Chuck and Lil Jon on a field trip. Our school was on a field trip, and we went to we were doing a tour of Fox 8, and we walked past their recording studio. So they were in their studio and saw the iconic area of the sitting area where they were at and stuff. And, we got a chance to wave to them, and they talked to us for a little bit and waved to us, which was super cool. And there was another actor that they had, Soul Brother. I want to say his name was Soul Brother. He was the Superman of that time. He was Soul Brother. But Big Big Chuck would take this vitamin and he would turn into Soul Brother, who in turn was, was African American. I got a chance to meet that gentleman who came to my high school back in 1987, 88. And do you realize, because I was such a huge fan of Big Chuck and Lil Jon, I was the only person to ask this guy for his autograph after the kid, no one knew him. So because I asked him, then everybody else wanted his autograph. Go figure. They had no inkling of who this guy was. And he spoke about it. I was asking questions. I get a chance to see, the guy that played Soul Brother. I mean, this is, this is, and I might be getting his name wrong, but anyway, it was so cool to see him. And he said that Big Chuck and Lil Jon, because he was like just worked on the behind the scenes. They did a lot of that stuff for a lot of their guys, the men and women that worked on their production teams. They would bring them, in the forefront and put them in skits. So this is how we got a chance to meet a lot of these people who became household names, with us during the 1970s and early 1980s. And that gentleman was another one. He said Big Chuck and Lil Jon were the absolute best human beings ever. He said that the treatment that he got, he didn't feel like just somebody that worked behind the scenes. They made everybody feel like they were a part of something special, of this process, which was really cool. And he had nothing but nice things to say about Big Chuck and Lil Jon. So I'll never forget that guy either. I want to say he's still alive. I'm not quite certain. I'll have to do my research on him. But yeah, so I want to say Soul Brother. I want to say that was the name of the skit. But it was really cool. Check that out. Yeah.
Soul Brother, Soul Man. Let me take a second.
Soul Man.
Soul Man.
Everybody's been sober.
Well,
because
okay, so Skywalker, my apologies again. I'm because we're in 3 different times. MIB is in a time zone. I'm in a separate time zone. Fanboy is in a separate time zone, and then Casual Crafter, who's not involved in this show, but so I just got my time zones crossed. Skywalker, so I had to do an edit. But I'm glad to see you preloaded comments, Skywalker. I was liking your, I need to blow it up more, but you light your soul on fire. You got a real nice, anyway. So here, let's get Matt back in the conversation. Matt also met Big Chuck, and then I got some Soul Man comment, but let me work the commenters into the conversation. Met Fantastic. Big Chuck and Little John. They did celebrity softball. That's what I'm talking about. Regional stuff where the people, the community can intermingle with the base of the fandom. The founder of now we got Mandarin. Now we got Mandarin. Now it's a party in the comments section. Let's go back, Skywalker. We're all good. Thank you much, Skywalker. Okay, so here comes Mandarin again, loading it up. Of course. Now see that how dare I get 28 minutes into the show and not mention that Mandarin also had hailed from Ohio. So again, Mandarin, you might know MIB's face, but now MIB and we're in the same boat. We know Mandarin by his alias. We know Mandarin by his appearances on the screen in the comment section, but we don't know the true identity of the Mandarin.
He's a mystery.
Okay. So in doing my quote unquote homework, which is a celebration, which is entertainment, let me dig into the comedy placement. So one of the bits was that Soul Man in a Superman suit,
right,
then was getting arrested for the crimes that were committed by like Bizarro Soul Man or the imposter Soul Man,
alter ego, right? Just the imposter one, yeah.
And I can't it's a question we can approach and answer, but how are they so funny? Like, okay, there's Jim Belushi and Dan Aykroyd putting on the fedoras and pulling blues classics and putting comedy together. So I'm saying that I am just it's somewhat a rhetorical question, but it's somewhat the question is a way of expressing my degree of being impressed. How did they have so much talent? How are they so funny?
It's just, you know, and that's a great question, because what I laughed at as a 9-year-old and an 8-year-old back in the 1970s, I'm still laughing at as a 54-year-old, you know, in 2025. That's the age-old question right there. It's a timeless question, because the humor and comedy was so pure. You know, it wasn't diluted. There was nothing phony about it. It was so campy, it was so corny, as the kids say now, that it was hilarious, and it's pure. And I think that's what they were. They were funny because they were trying to be serious, but with a comedic spin, if you will. So, you know, like I said, the Soul Man skit, you know, and they asked the police officer, said, okay, well, if, you know, well, the only way we can figure out the real one is fly out this window. So, when actually the imposter was like, I'm not going to do that.
Yes.
Well, Soul Man, the real Soul Man said, he said, well, that's it. So they found out who the real one was. Well, afterwards, the other guy said, well, hey, how come, you know, you didn't fly out? He said, oh yeah, I'll try it. I'll do it. And then you see this dummy, leg bent over and stuff, flat, and hit the ground and stuff. And he said, well, and the narrator said, whoa, that was a close call. And to me, it's the fact that you don't even have a real life stunt man to try even fall out the window. You have to use this dummy, and life-size dummy, which is bent all over, which is hilarious to begin with. And it's just pure, just comedy. It's just that, you know,
Innovation, comedy. I'll say also the production quality. And then in a little minute, I want to pull in some of the. I mean, this conversation is rich enough with MIB on the screen and our commenters in the comment section. I do in a little minute want to pull in some of the comments from the Reddit community. So I like to assemble all the voices and put them on the record for this tribute to Chuck.
Absolutely.
Just a production bit. So then you had the bit like he's gonna they bound Chuck by the wrists and his legs, and he was gonna clench the man with the strongest jaw or some such. He was gonna hold the rope and be pulled up by a crane. So now obviously it's not the actual human being, but where did they get access to a crane? And for the other one, I said, so first they did the fake out they're simulating having cars, but it's just a steering wheel, not a car.
Right.
Then other stuff about the machinery and mechanical devices. Like who's the production manager? That's right. Okay, we need to go get some cranes and we need to block out stuff. The one I know I'm in the shopping mall then about the banana peel. Like Little John wanted candy, but the mom character said no, but you can have a banana. So he puts the classic bit of the banana peel on the ground, which then turns into the gumball machine, gets knocked like so. And you can tell it's dark. Are they dark in this shopping mall? I don't know the name of the shopping mall from the bit, but then
it could have been Parma Town Mall, because you know Big Chuck is from Parma. You know, which I have to drive through Parma on my way to work, and there's now that he's gone, there's not a moment I don't drive through Parma and not think about Big Chuck. And they have all these beautiful on a highway. You know, they have all these billboards and stuff that has his face up there, and rest in peace, and you know, a living legend. So yeah, but I want to say that was Parma Town Mall. They did a lot of work near that area. If they had to shoot on location, you know, from what I'm being told and from my research and listening to those guys talk about it. So I want to say Parma Town Mall. Yeah. And they did a lot of work down near Richmond Mall as well. Anybody from Cleveland or Ohio would know Richmond Mall. It's no longer there now. I believe they turned it into something else now. I know it was abandoned for the last couple of years. Yeah. It's just a lot of these iconic land sites, you know.
and drawn back to again to Goulardi, who and maybe we could some other time look back further back, like where did Goulardi get his influences? But for Goulardi to incorporate the town of Parma into the ongoing comedy and jokes, and now as you just explained this, I'm learning that they weren't just speaking of Parma, they were involving physical location of Parma. But then that was, of course, also the influence. I'll just say quickly to Jerry G. Bishop when he came to the Illinois side of the border to go with the Svengoolie character to then substitute in Berwyn for Parma. So again, it's just this the snowball effect or the flame, the avalanche. It was a whole lot of momentum and motion, and it was Mandarin. Let me get caught. Mandarin definitely knows the places that MIB speaks of. This is the most Ohio. Fittingly, this is the most Ohio reference show to do, and that's what we're here to.
Mandarin knows, yeah. Anybody from Ohio would know those. Yeah, definitely know those locations.
All right, let me go and bring in the. Okay, I guess I got to do the stop share first over there, and then let me get the Reddit comments in so MIB and the commenters can respond as will to. Okay, Big Chuck, rest in peace. So let me set the stage here. So initially, right, taking the screenshot from, and at first I didn't even realize. So look, this is the same photo that the two of them are in together.
Right.
Then for their placement
in the Hall of Fame
profile picture in the Hall of Fame, you just shift camera one way, shift camera the other way. But that's just, they were inseparable, right? That's the way it was. So let's go here. RXM 161 says, sad day, spent my youth from the time he and Houlihan had a show through Little John. R.I.P. to Chuck. R.I.P. Now here's another one, and maybe this is tell me if this rings a bell for you, MIB or Mandy or Matt. R.I.P. to the certain ethnic $6 million man.
Yes, yeah. They speaking of pop culture, they touched on everything that was big in the 1970s. They did a skit about the $6 million man. Yeah, well, he wasn't quite $6 million though. Not the parts they used on it.
See, tremendous. Okay,
right.
If I'm saying it right, Galway. Remember when they had the show in Detroit also back in the day? Good stuff. We kind of commented on that earlier. So now here again, you get a lot of interesting monikers in Reddit. So Steve Harvey Oswald. Tip one back for the Kielbasa Kid. So MIB, I ask you, was that a frequent nickname for Chuck?
Yes.
Refer to him as the Kielbasa Kid?
Well, he did a skit and he was called the Kielbasa Kid. And and his holster, as opposed to having a gun, see, it was good, clean humor. He didn't have a gun. He had a kielbasa, okay? And he was real quick with that kielbasa, very quick with it. So that was it. He did tons of skits about the Kielbasa Kid, as the Kielbasa Kid, which was it was hilarious, All
right, Steve Harvey Oswald continues, and it might help me decipher now. Makes me miss it. I've never had a better draft than an ice cold Tyskie on draft and a corned beef and a pastrami on
yeah. Yeah.
Here we go. A Pirlo 13, sad news. Love the segment in American Scary. Is American Scary something you know about? It might be that is something I do not know about.
That one eludes me a little bit. I'll probably need a refresher.
That's all right. That's why we're here to just
take. And listen, I love the fact that we got people writing in and responding and commenting because some of this is jogging my memory, and some of this is refreshing to me to know that what I missed some of this stuff. Growing up in the 1970s, because that's how deep this whole Big Chuck and Little John thing was. It ran for a long time. So there was a lot of information in there, a lot of fun times
Right, local legends ingrained
Yes.
into the community. The same way that people will talk about Saturday Night Live catchphrases or your primetime catchphrases, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so time for John here says had to leave Northeast Ohio in late 70s when the job market went belly up. First Goulardi, then Houlihan and Big Chuck. Then the early days of Big Chuck and Little John. I'd still watch Big Chuck and Little John when I was able to get home. Cleveland classic, the best. R.I.P. Big Chuck, a true classy Cleveland classic. Uh, great comment for big, for not big time, but for time there. Now Snoop predictions. Grew up watching them. Love the show. Thanks for the years of entertainment. Rest in peace.
Yes.
Delicious Iron says, "Damn, missed that show. Many late nights spent with them in my teens." And then co-moderator, the lead moderator for the Svengoolie group, drops the RIP for Big Chuck. Let me come back where I can see. All right, we're up in comments again. The comments are flowing. Fanboys recognizing Mandarin. Kielbasa as a weapon. All right, man. Serious Kielbasa. $6 million man. Matt's echoing on that. Coming back to Matter. Oh, big Jim Campbell, bro. And so now let me again just tie this piece together. It was what was Campbell's line that you had then replicated into your show? I should not be drawing a blank, but Campbell dropped the comment, and then you brought it into the show that you did just recently. I'm wrecking it. Do you remember? And then I commented to you about, you pulled that comment. And you said that to see if I would catch it.
See, that's what's happened when you get old. We just
yeah. Anyway, well, whatever it was that Campbell said, and Jim, if you remember your own comment,
right.
Kick it back in. But the Campbell would spread a little something, and then MIB would pull it over into his own show. It was Ben Crazy. All right.
Oh,
Walk.
we can never
forget
forget
through the character and the bit of Ben Crazy.
You can never forget Ben Crazy, and they would do all these signs before the intro to Ben Crazy, which was hilarious in its own right. And I can't think of all the signs. And if anybody saw Ben Crazy, they know exactly what I'm talking about. But in at Christmas time, I don't know where my parents got this from. We had these maybe 12-inch plastic action figures. They were molded in it they like the army men, but they weren't. So one was a doctor, and he was giving this kid a shot with this needle. But on the base of this action figure, it had the Ben Crazy, all of those emblems and those lines. And we had just assumed that this came from Big Chuck and Little John. that they were maybe had some type of a deal with this particular toy company that made these plastic action figures, because we saw the Ben Crazy logo and sign on it. So once again, I wish I had that. Now, and being a toy collector, you don't think for one second I didn't try to track that down. I'm still looking for that. Once again, it's just a part of our childhood. So, but Ben Crazy had a ton of great skits. Clean, very simple, straight to the point, and yet just pure comedy gold, as we said before. Pure comedy gold. I'm going to watch some later on.
So that's right. We're coming. So again, as we're pooling a number of voices here. We're trying to have some enjoyment of it and some celebratory atmosphere. It was 90 years on this earth is what Chuck had, and we should all be so lucky or what
Right.
have you. So for our commenters and for MIB, our maven of knowledge of the Ohio area. Okay, so either are there specific YouTube channels or highlights that we should look for? Are there, in other words, what else should we do to carry on in celebrating Big Chuck? Yeah. So again, there's a great many things out there on YouTube, and I'm saying it's good to see them referenced in Shock Theater to Svengoolie, the book. Are there any other sources or events that should be on record here before we close out?
Yeah, I would say YouTube is the biggest access site for any and all things, Big Chuck and Little John, Houlihan and Big Chuck, Goulardi, anything. I would go YouTube. You just punch in Big Chuck and Little John, Houlihan and Big Chuck. That's what I normally do. And then you can punch in what you want. Punch in that. It's going to give you a ton of information, a ton of skits, videos, you name it. One of the best things, I know we're wrapping things up, one of the best parts and one of the saddest parts every Friday night was the ending of their show. It was fun. And they had the lady, I don't know the young lady that sang this song. Obviously, they took this reference song from somewhere else, but they just incorporated it into it's called Is This the End? And they played that every Friday night at the end of the show. And naturally, they would make the last part of her voice sound crazy because that's who they were. They were just funny, which was hilarious. And they would say, is that all? And then they would just, it would sound something similar to this. Is that all? And I'm like, oh I said this, so we go to bed just laughing about that. So, but I would say just to keep Big Chuck, to keep his legacy alive, the best thing we can do is just continue to watch the skits, watch the show, hopefully they'll do something. Little John will probably get with his people and see if they can maybe do some type of remembrance, to celebrate his Big Chuck's life. If that happens, I'll reach out and let you guys know where to tune in at and where to watch it at. So that'll be great.
Matt saying in the PJs. MIB, is that just like
yes. They would at the very end of the show, they would transition into their PJs, and those old style PJs where it was just a long shirt, and they had their slippers on. So it was fun. They did that that was a live audience. It was taped in front of a live audience, so you could go down there and get a ticket to be a part of the live audience.
Oh man! But then I don't expect to know the actual. But did they drive home in the PJs? Like they say, sometimes you couldn't just come out of your monster makeup from the Universal set. You'd go home with some Frankenstein face on. So
it's Cleveland. And probably during the warmer weather months. Probably I don't know about during November, December, January. It's probably been a little tougher.
To be sure. Fanboy coming to us with a poignant comment. You gotta love YouTube for being able to remember these shows. And again, Matt's coming around. Channel 8 doing a tribute. Matt, do you have any more information on the Channel 8 tribute, Matt? Please feel free to.
Thanks,
I know
Matt.
you're a first timer here, Matt, but please feel free to give any more detail.
Cleveland is cold. Yeah. I know it can get cold in Chicago. I know it can get cold in Chicago, but Cleveland's cold. Yeah. If we're sitting, right there, Fox 8, I'm just thinking of Fox 8 at this point and the city. Well, you guys are sitting right there too, about a lake. It's cold.
Yeah. Right. Different time zone, but the same Great Lakes. So,
yes.
The latitude, the longitude, it's all, it's not that far apart.
What's that? Lake Michigan for you guys, right?
That's right.
And Lake Erie for us. Yeah.
Yep. All right, let's see. Mandarin is saying used to live in the snow belt, bro.
Yeah. I work in the snow belt now, so yeah, it ain't fun.
All right, Matt is saying which should be on later on the Roku channel, and then Mandarin's coming back with Small Town 1 hour east of Cleveland.
Yeah.
All right. Well, again, I who am I to want to speak on Big Chuck? I'm just somebody who came to learn of Big Chuck through the being interested in horror host and local comedy produced shows. In our previous conversation, MIB and I spoke on Bozo and Superhost and the Ray Rayner show around Chicago. And again, to just keep a succinct comment to it again, it's all great treasure. It's all a great memory. Again, 90 years come and gone for Chuck. Great
life.
A full life.
Full life.
He gave so much for so many years, and it's only fitting that the man be remembered. Typically we like to play. I know that it's our ongoing bit of when's the next live stream and all that stuff. So we'll just say we'll come back with that stuff, but I just wanted to keep it focused on Chuck and Goulardi and Houlihan and Little John this time around. I know MIB put out some work earlier today on his channel. I need to go get into his comment section, but Matt was an unexpected treasure to have come around. Mandarin likes to surprise us with his comings and goings. So
we love Mandarin.
Great to have actual Cleveland area people to enrich the conversation. Thanks ChiStar. Thanks Fanboy. Thanks everybody.
This is a great outcome again.
MIB, I'm so appreciative that you were vibing with this, or that you're like, absolutely, let's do this. It's fitting that you to make a tribute.
Thank you, Mr. C. Yeah, thank you for putting this together. This, like I said, this is fantastic. The second you talked about this and you thought about doing something like I said, I am all in. I am all in. And I couldn't have done this nowhere near as good as, which I guess I should be slapped for it because I'm in Cleveland. But you put this together beautifully. This was absolutely phenomenal, and we had a great turnout, and just shows you how much how many lives Big Chuck really touched, and that show.
A great turnout. Let me say, but that's why in the community building, right? We're all trying to contribute something in a positive way to the community, and it is you that your knowledge base remains fluent across many sub elements of the community, the culture.
Trying to keep it sharp.
I will now close us out. Again, people feel free to put positive memories of Big Chuck into the comment section after the live show. Feel free to put important links for any upcoming official, Fox 8 Cleveland area tributes to Chuck coming up. I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much. We will be back again. See you soon.